All right, you guys, it is time to go through the 1128 full spoiler comment section and see what the hell we were talking about well before the images to the chapter actually released. So yeah, my name is Sai. We're just here to have a good old time and have a good old chat. So buckle up, sit on back, and let's get this party started. All right, so as per usual, we start with the top comments and then just kind of work our way down from there. So the first comment says, Luffy defeating the giant snake named Hilmengander Jormungandr, hopefully I'm pronouncing those right by the way, foreshadowing the start of Ragnarok, meaning we are almost to the final war. And Zoro defeating the crow Mugen of Odin while using the sword of Odin is kind of funny. And yeah, I agree. I mean, Oda's in his bag with the Norse mythology stuff, with the Norse tie-ins in general. So I'm kind of curious to see how long Oda can keep on digging into the Norse bag. Like, we're only 2 chapters into Elbaf if we're actually there, and Oda's already going crazy. As far as Ragnarok goes though, I'm kind of curious to see how Oda triggers it in the world of One Piece. Will Luffy start the war? Will the world government do it? Or will Blackbeard do it? Or perhaps it might even be the Revs, right? Oda can take a lot of liberties when it comes to these Norse references. So now, on to the comment right below. They say, as someone who's been skeptical of the Usopp hype heading into Elbaf, I do have a little bit of hope now that Luffy basically told him, hey man, lock in. Let's hope he listens. I think he's listening. And here's the thing, right? Even if Usopp doesn't listen to Luffy, there could definitely be a chance that Usopp is forced to listen, right? Because we've seen instances where Usopp gets separated from the group, or Usopp is the only person they can rely on. So I could totally see something like that happening here, where maybe we have to rely on Usopp, and Usopp realizes that nobody's going to save him, right? Because last time, Nami saved him, Zoro, Luffy, Sanji saved him. So we need to put Usopp, in my opinion, in a box and just kind of leave him to his own devices for a little bit. This sun god might just be Surtur, the man marked by flames instead of Loki. So I have no idea what I just said, to be honest. I don't know what Surtur is. Hopefully that's not another Norse name that I just butchered. But yes, as far as this sun god being the man marked by flames, I don't believe it yet. And the reason why has to kind of do with the person who responded as well. They say, I don't think we're going to meet the character on an island. They mentioned him having whirlpools around his ship for a reason. Oda gave us 5 descriptors in regards to this character. Or at least there's 5 things we kind of know about them, right? 1, somehow, some way, either figuratively or literally, this man is marked by flames. 2, he has a jet black ship. Black sails, black boat, black wood, black everything, right? The 3rd hint would be that he has whirlpools. The 4th hint would be timeline-wise. Somewhere in between last year and 20 years ago, this person took the poneglyph from Fishman Island. And then Shiryu kind of just guessed this one, but he said, hey, maybe this person is connected to the world government in some way, because it would make sense if they were to gatekeep the last poneglyph. So far, this fake sun god has not met any of those criterias yet. Maybe they will in the future, but base level, based on what we've seen in this last chapter, I don't think it's them. But I do admit, it would be really funny if it was them. Because just imagine what a poneglyph would be like for a giant, right? Like for us, it's like this giant unbreakable block. But for a giant, it's probably just like a little Rubik's Cube. So maybe they do have it, actually. Like, imagine we just leave the room, and then we see, like, a bunch of poneglyphs on the shelf. And the guy's like, yes, I'm a big old rock collector on the side. And we're like, wait, those aren't rocks, those are the poneglyphs. So, in that regard, I do like this idea, but from a logical standpoint, there's nothing here yet for me to believe it. Alright, so this next comment says, Chopper was always referred to as the pet of the Straw Hat Pirates, even though he's a doctor. So it makes sense that someone would want him as a pet for themselves. And the reply says, not the first time. Remember the Foxy Pirates? Out of the whole crew, they picked Chopper first. Yeah, I mean, Chopper's just adorable, right? Like, imagine you have the 6 Straw Hats all sleeping in front of you. Chopper would be the safest one to kidnap, right? Like, he can't really fight back, to your knowledge, until he transforms. He's just this cute little raccoon dog thingy. So I can't blame the Sun God or any other pirate crew for wanting to kidnap Chopper first. I think it just makes a lot of sense. As far as Chopper being a pet though, I gotta say it, man, but that is some crazy marine incompetence to constantly label Chopper a pet time and time again, despite him being a doctor and despite him transforming and everything. Brother, the Marines were able to figure out that Gold Roger had a kid and that kid was Portgas the Ace. Brother, they figured that out, but they can't figure out that Chopper's the doctor of the Straw Hats and isn't actually a pet? The guy ate a devil fruit. He ate the human fruit, right? Like, he ate the human no me. Like, at that point, he's not even a pet anymore. I know that Chopper's title of being the pet of the Straw Hats is a big old running joke in the series, but I feel like at some point, the Marines, they're gonna have to explain why they thought it was a pet, right? Or at least they're gonna have to explain why his bounty is so damn low. And the thing is that even Beppo on Law's crew has a low bounty as well. Like, at this point, you know, 2 for 2, maybe the Marines are just racist towards minks and furry people. That's gotta be it, right? Like, okay, Chopper, maybe they're incompetent. But Beppo? That's like Law's right-hand man. How does Beppo have a bounty of like 1,000 berries too? How's that possible, man? All right, correction. I had to look it up to make sure that I was right, but Beppo's bounty is actually 1,500 berries. Woohoo! Yeah, Beppo, let's go! Like, dude, that's so disrespectful, man. Imagine being on Onigashima. Imagine, you know, being on a crew where the captain is worth 3 billion berries, and you're stuck with 1,500 and 1,000. No, dude, I'd be upset, man. Ugh, maybe Chopper and Beppo have to start murdering some Marines to put their name out there. They gotta do something, man. Come on. All right, so the next comment says, Luffy telling Usopp that he could defeat the cat alone is Oda starting Usopp's arc in Elbaf. He is strong, but he's still fearful. He will learn to have courage by the end of the arc. Maybe even show signs of Conqueror's Haki. And then the comment below says, and then he'll forget it in the very next arc. And yeah, getting back to the brass tacks of it all, I agree. Usopp is powerful. Usopp is crafty. The only problem with Usopp is that he doesn't really try and fights. Like, the minute his attacks stop working, he kind of just throws in the towel, or he relies on somebody to save him. And I think that's so important because that's what his dream is all about. His dream is to become a brave warrior of the sea. So telling him that he's already strong, he just needs to be brave, I think is a really good takeaway here. And I hope that Usopp gets something. It doesn't have to be a massive power-up, you know? I've talked about Usopp getting Mjolnir, I've talked about Usopp getting a Devil Fruit, or Usopp getting Crazy Haki, but in reality, he doesn't need any of that. He just needs to stand up and try his best. Like, that's all he needs to do. Like, that is the base level, what he needs. Anything else at that point, any other power-up, it's just a bonus in my opinion. This direction of the new arc, I'm really loving it. It brings back many old elements we used to enjoy. This will be a ride. And I completely agree, brother. Between last week's chapter and this week's chapter, I was grinning like an idiot because I was having a lot of fun. The comedy in these past 2 chapters has actually been hitting. And, you know, it's not like I'm a stone-faced loser, but, you know, throughout most of One Piece, I'm kind of just like, you know, it's not bad. You know, it's a pretty good joke here or there. But this time around, like, I feel like Oda is going back to classic One Piece in a sense. And it's not just because we're stuck with the 6 characters we have now. It's not because it's the Alabasta 6 and Frankie and, you know, Jinbei and Brook aren't here. No, I think Oda is just having fun with it now, right? We're in a brand new land. He's going back to the roots of these characters, and I think this is great. You know, we had Sanji and Nami over here flying in the sky, and Sanji's talking about how there's too many guys here, so this can't be a dream. We had them running away from a grasshopper. Luffy ran immediately away after he heard there was a sun god here. You know, Zoro followed him because he wanted to fight somebody strong. It's like, yo, the comedy's actually kind of hitting, and I hope it stays this way until the end of One Piece. Maybe that's a hot take, but I really do think that these last 2 chapters have been phenomenal in terms of comedy. So now, the comment below says Luffy uses his opponents to train. Right now, he needs to get used to Gear 5th, so using it as much as possible is important. And I completely agree as well. So yeah, I think Luffy needs to use Gear 5th on as many opponents as possible so that he can build up his stamina. And I would argue that his stamina was built up in this chapter, because a key thing to make note of is that Luffy went into Gear 5th, fought the snake, and he didn't go into his old man form. This is the very first time that Luffy has not turned into an old man. Against Kizaru, against Saturn, against the Gorosei, Lucci, everyone, Luffy has turned into an old man. But this time around, Luffy's good. Luffy's running at the end of the chapter. Granted though, Luffy's fight here against the snake is kind of a special exception among his other fights because the snake only really took one attack and then he was done. So there is also a chance that Luffy just didn't expend enough energy yet to go into his old man form. But either way, this is a perfect D-transition from Gear 5th to base form Luffy. Alright, so this comment says, the Sun God is a real fitting cover-up for the man marked by flames. We still don't know if we were brought here via whirlpool or not, and a guarded area makes me think a poneglyph may be what's protected. It could still be too early for us to acquire it, but I do like the theory. And you know what? I'm kind of opening up to this idea now. I still don't think this is the case, but I do like that you explained the whirlpool here. And you're completely right. We don't know how we got here, so for all we know, yeah, they used the whirlpool, they got the Thousand Sunny, and that's how we ended up here. But there's still nothing telling us that's what happened yet. But I'll keep this one in the back pocket, right? I'll remember this if it happens. Alright, so the next comment is actually from the same user. They say, I really like Luffy's dialogue with Usopp. Oda is going out of his way to make it a point that it isn't Usopp's strength that is lacking, but his confidence. Elbaf has always been known as Usopp's arc for a long time now. I really hope we see him develop, whether it be through a confidence boost or even a new persona like Sogeking. I still think the Sun God is either Loki or maybe a child of Loki, due to the emphasis on size. And then they also add in an edit, and they say it could still be the man marked by flames behind a mask. And if the Blackbeard theory of him working for the world government is true, then he is no friend of ours. And one thing that is kind of interesting about this character working for the world government is that we did have that one Holy Knight back at God Valley who was wearing, it was like a deer skull mask as well. So yeah, maybe this is all connected there, and this is the man marked by flames. One thing about it though is it would make me wonder why they're cosplaying as the Sun God, considering the fact that the Sun God is almost like the natural enemy of celestial dragons, but that could be explained at a later date. As far as the return of Sogeking in this arc though, I would really love that. Mainly because I would want him to take off the mask and show Luffy and Chopper that it was actually Usopp all along. It would be a perfect full circle moment. You know, Luffy and Chopper, they still have no idea who the hell Sogeking is, and I think it would be cool if, you know, they see Sogeking and they're like, oh, you know, Sogeking's gonna save us, Sogeking's gonna do this or that, and then Usopp's like, nope, it's me, I'm the brave warrior here, I'm gonna save you guys. Maybe that's a lot of headcanon going on there, but I think it would be nice to bring back that gag one more time. And considering how Oda has been bringing back a lot of gags in these last two chapters, I wouldn't be super shocked if he does bring it in here. Alright, so this comment says, big theory I just thought of. The giant chasing is Loki. He calls himself the Sun God because he hopes to be liberated due to his people keeping him captive-safe until he can get married and rule properly. We don't know when Lola was offered to him, but he has probably lost weight and gone depressed since being held indoors. Dory and Brogy were sent to get Luffy after it was revealed he could go Gear 5th - look like Nika. They hope to encourage Loki to grow up and rule strongly. Oh, let me scroll down a little bit. Loki, being kept in his quarters, uses Legos and captures animals and humans to recreate the Elbafian kingdom that he can rule, since he cannot rule the real one he resides in. I agree with Morge's prediction that the God Knights will be the enemy of the island. Elbaf has plenty of food to replenish the food crisis happening in Marie Joie, and their infiltration will trigger conflict with the Straw Hats and Giants. So, I'm gonna tackle this step by step. Going back to the first one, I could see Loki being heartbroken. I could see Loki still mourning over Lola. And the thing is that Lola is never gonna get with him. You know, not just because of the Big Mom stuff, but because Lola got married. She got married in a cover page story. She is off the books. So, I do think that Loki is depressed. I think he is, you know, held up in his own room. He doesn't really see anybody else. He might be a bad ruler. And I feel like that will be a plot point we're going to have to tackle later on, right? Maybe we help Loki find a girlfriend, right? I think that'd be kind of funny. As far as the Dory and Brogy bit goes, I'm actually right there with you, because when Luffy and the crew went missing and the Giants and Robin and Frankie and all them woke up, one of the Giants said, hey, we can't go back to Elbaf like this. It almost sounded as if they were expected to bring Luffy back with them. And then we had the person off the coast of Elbaf saying, hey, Come on, then. So it really does seem like they were rolling out the red carpet for the sun god. So I do agree. I think they were sent there. As far as the reason for them wanting to bring Luffy back to encourage Loki, I think that doesn't even have to be the case. I think that could just be something that happens naturally, right? Like that's like well, what is it called? Like that's like secondhand smoke, right? The first-hand smoke is bringing the sun god back home, you know, worshiping the sun god, hanging out with him, partying with him, seeing what he's all about, seeing what kind of character he is, and then secondarily, boom, Loki gets inspired because he sees how cool Luffy is. I could totally see that happening, and maybe Loki is jealous. Yeah, maybe Loki just gets really jealous of Luffy because Luffy has a bunch of princesses right beside him. You know, not only does he have Nami and Robin, which I guess they're not princesses, but he's got Vivi, he's got Shirahoshi, he has Boa Hancock, he has Rebecca, sort of. You know, like, Luffy has a harem. So yeah, maybe Loki looks at Luffy and he's like, yo, teach me how to pick up women, man. You're killing it. The third part, it was Loki being kept in his quarters, using Legos. Yep. I do agree with this. I have my own theory. So I don't think the person wearing the mask is a guy. I don't think it's Loki. My own personal theory is that it might be the Elbaf princess or just a girl in general who's a loser, a loner, and they built a fake Elbaf to mirror the real Elbaf because they don't go outside. That's my own thing, but, you know, obviously if you're going with Loki, I think this is pretty solid as well. As far as the God Knights coming to Elbaf, I could see one God Knight. I don't see all of them coming here. You know, it's kind of like putting all your eggs in one basket. They kind of have bigger fish to fry. You know, the Revs are destroying the Bondolas. You know, the Revs have cut off the food supply. If their first instinct is to go to Elbaf, the land of giants, fight the giants, get food and bring it back, they're crazy. They're crazy. Because the simplest thing they could do is to go to some random kingdom that has no heavy hitters, no fighters, take their food, and then just bring it back. Or just go to an allied nation. You know, there's a lot of countries allied with the world government. They could just go there and demand food. And then the kingdom wouldn't be able to fight back. So the God Knights coming to Elbaf and fighting this battle that they don't have to fight would be kind of crazy. But you're right, though. They do have a lot of food here because everything is gigantified. So coming here would net the biggest profits and return. But the risk, man, the risk is just crazy. And plus, the Gorosei most likely know that Luffy is going to Elbaf, right? I mean, Saturn kind of mentioned it earlier before he died. We saw that multiple Gorosei saw them departing with the giants. So, if the Holy Knights come here, they better come here like how Aramaki went to Wano, right? Just super confident. Because Green Bull, when he went to Wano, he said, yeah, the samurai, Kid, Law, the crew, Luffy, I can take them down. Like, the God Knights have to have that level of confidence to set foot on Elbaf. Because not only does Elbaf have the giants, but they have Luffy. And also, if this is Shanks' territory, they're going to have to fight Shanks. I think this is a lose-lose. I do think one God Knight will come here, maybe for some weird Shanks connection. But outside of that, I can't imagine the whole Holy Knight, God Knight force coming here. That would just be like a suicide mission. No. I think it'd be cool, though. Don't get me wrong. I love the God Knights. I love the Holy Knights. That's why I'm so passionate when I talk about them. Because I want Oda to cook with this final batch of villains, right? Everybody else, we already know the groups. We know Emu. We know the Gorosei. We know Shanks. We know Blackbeard. We know Crossguild. We know all of these guys. The one group that we have yet to get that I think Oda can go crazy with, it's got to be the God Knights. And I think that's why I just put them to that high pedestal. I don't want them to lose this early on. If the God Knights lose here in Elbaf, man, I'm not going to cry. I don't cry, but like I think I'd like shed a single tear, man. I really would. But yeah, that's my rant for the day. Oh my God. I scrolled down to the replies of it and somebody said it too. They said, I hope the Holy Knights stay far away from Elbaf. Oda has had a bad habit of making world government powerhouses look stupid and lame rather than scary. The 5 zombies were a fail in my eyes. So, the 5 zombies is crazy, but the 5 zombies aside, yes. Like, if they came here and they lost, that would be nuts. Yeah, I mean, this is why I said they have to go somewhere else. Please go somewhere else, guys. Anywhere but here. Alright, so this comment says, my theory is that maybe, just maybe, Enel will come back into this arc as Thor has the power of lightning. Who else has it? Enel and Elbaf. have been based off of Loki and Thor, so maybe we get to see Enel here. So I do agree that if Enel were to come back at any point in the story moving forward, him coming to Elbaf makes the most sense. For a couple of different reasons, I'll kind of like list them off quickly, but Aruj is one of them, right? People think Aruj is here on Elbaf for some odd reason. It could be related to the Yggdrasil, it could be related to Sky Islands, but people like to think that Aruj is here. If that is the case, then having Enel come into play would be beautiful, because Enel is the man that destroyed that guy's hometown. Of course, Aruj said he didn't really care about it. You know, it's water under the bridge. You know, he's a monk through and through, essentially. But yeah, I think that connection there would be pretty damn awesome. And outside of that, Enel has some knowledge of the ancient weapons. He saw the carvings on the moon. So if he were to come down here, maybe he would give us insight as to what the hell was happening. And also, we have Lilith with us as well. I think having Vegapunk alongside an Enel meetup would be massive, because Vegapunk grew up in the kingdom of Baltimore. And do you know who else grew up in Baltimore? The person who created the automatons that Enel currently has as his army, Dr. Tsukimi. So I think if Enel came down here, he would connect with Aruj, he would connect with Luffy, of course, and he'd connect with Lilith, the Dr. Vegapunk clone we have. So yeah, I think Enel is a great pick. My only problem with Enel is that I just don't know how he would react with the crew or how he would get along with us. Like, he seems hard-headed, right? If there were a character to come back into the plot that would have Conqueror's Haki, it would be Enel. The guy, he has a god complex. So I don't know how he would fare here on Elbaf. I don't know if he would be friendly. Maybe he would be friendly because he doesn't want to fight Luffy again. But I don't know, man. Enel, you know, I'm not saying he's one-dimensional, but I just don't see him changing. All right, so this comment says, the Yeti Cool brothers are about twice the height of normal giants, but a little under oars, and are pretty thin. The sun god could be of that subclass of giants. And below, they say the Yeti Cool brothers are for sure slept on, and I always forgot about them. Hopefully, we will see more about them soon. And I'm right there with you, brother. The Yeti Cool brothers were awesome. They came in during chapter 666. They took down Sanji, Zoro, Nami, I believe. Of course, to be fair, their bodies and personalities were swapped by Law, so they weren't exactly ready for a fight. And also, the Yeti Cool brothers sniped them from afar, so they couldn't really do anything about it. But yeah, Yeti Cool brothers, I think they're great. It's kind of crazy that Oda never revealed what they are. Like, he said they're giants, but he didn't reveal what type of giants. He said, oh, by the way, yeah, see you later. Like, that's it. Like, we got no information on these guys. So hopefully, when we get to Elbaf, or whenever we see what Elbaf is all about, we get more Yeti Cool Brother giants. Hopefully, we get some ancient giants, some Wotans, which are fisherman giants. I think Oda can get crazy with how many different subspecies of giants there actually are. All right, so this comment says, the Z on the door is clearly a use of Norse runes, specifically Sewulo, also known as Soul. This is just another way to represent that this is supposed to be the sun god's room and nothing else. But I would be attentive if any other runes show up in the future with other meanings. See the images for reference. The deer head might be Odin, as some myths have him represented as the horned god. And deer are very important to Norse mythology in general. He could be Loki's father that lost the throne, therefore now just spends time as the false sun god with his own little Elbaf as he used to reign before. That would explain the crow appearance as well, as they always show up with Odin. He is one of the biggest giants we've seen, probably one of the ancient giants like Ors. Therefore, he would have actual horns like Ors himself, which would tie into the horned god stuff. And yeah, I like that. I like the Odin idea. I think that's a very unique one. I haven't heard that yet. As far as the Z on the door being a Nordic rune for the sun, that's awesome. I love that Oda puts in those little details, and now I just gotta see if we're going to get more stuff like that in the future. And also, one thing about the horned god, because you kind of brought it up, but, you know, on the side, when Luffy went into Gear 5th in this chapter, his horns on his helmet actually merged with his head, so it kind of looked like he was an Ors type figure, you know, an ancient giant. So I wonder if Luffy goes into like a giant sun god Nika mode with his Elbaf attire on. I wonder if he will look like one of them, which would be kind of cool. All right, so this next comment says, now I know this comment is long AF, but it's cooking, I guarantee it. It pertains to my theory from the last video, brief spoilers, as to why Chopper was separated. He had a collar on him. The so-called sun god recognized him as a deer and put it on Chopper, as well as added him to his personal deer collection. Why say deer collection? This person is obviously a hobbyist because of not only the massive pile of Legos, Luffy pointed out, but also he's likely a deer and other animal collector. He has a deer skull for a helmet, separated Chopper out specifically, and it's culturally accurate to Scandinavians who commonly herd deer. So if Oda is using this reference, the sun god is likely to have his own herd of reindeer, and he recognized Chopper's rarity according to what's likely Elbaf standards. If this guy is in fact a deer collector, Chopper would be highly valued because he's tiny. He also has a blue nose and can talk. I was wrong about Chopper's mixed feelings though. He was scared and blubbering same as always. Also, I can't shake the idea that Oda wants to do more with some sort of Christmas theme in Elbaf. Santa Claus's lore is not only of Siberian origin but also Nordic. Said jolly old fat guy was considered a Norse mythology deity as well in some stories. Guess what? Santa Claus was also a hobbyist, and this giant toy box or diorama makes a lot of sense if it goes where my theory goes. Loki though, this might still be Prince Loki too. I'm weighing my theory options. Since Christmas and the holidays are coming up just around the corner, it wouldn't shock me in the slightest if Oda is getting ready to put out some kind of Christmas reference by the time of the holiday. That's like 9 to 10 chapters from now, if you include a couple of breaks. Japan celebrates Christmas just as hard, if not harder than we do. You know he's gonna take the opportunity eventually. I think the last time Oda referenced Christmas was ironically the Drum Island arc. And yeah, I mean, I really love the Chopper connections here. I mean, Chopper was treated specially in this chapter. And one thing that, you know, I just thought of that's kind of interesting, and you pointed it out too, but Chopper had a collar on him. The other animals in the room don't have collars. And it makes me wonder, is that because Chopper's new and they want to make sure that he's tamed and or gets along with everybody first and then they'll let him go? Or were they actually trying to trade them off or do something else with Chopper? Because at first I was like, okay, you know, maybe Chopper would have become another shrine guardian. You know, maybe Chopper would have been put in the little Elbaf cage later as a god. But what if that's not the case? What if this, you know, fake sun god or giant sun god actually wanted to herd him or trade him off to somebody else who has reindeers as well? I think that'd be pretty cool. Maybe they even put him in a snow globe, right? That'd be kind of silly. But yeah, I do like all of these Chopper connections you made here. I think they're fantastic. And as far as this last part goes, where you said that Japan celebrates Christmas just as hard, if not harder, that is completely true. I was in Japan for Christmas at one point, and let me tell you, actually, well before Christmas, but right after October 31st, right after Halloween, I'm not even joking, they start selling Christmas trees right away. You know, here in America, we have Thanksgiving, so there's like this little weird in-between where we're selling like a bunch of turkey stuff. But in Japan, dude, they go hard on Christmas for 2 months straight. It's insane. And yeah, Japan loves Christmas. They love Santa Claus. You know, Colonel Sanders in Japan dresses up as Santa Claus. So I would not be shocked at all if we do get a crazy Santa Claus reference. Hell, maybe Loki or Thor or Odin, maybe they look like Santa Claus. All right, so now the last 2 comments of today's video. This one says, maybe the giant is actually 2 giant kids on each other's shoulder. Yo, hey, that's a really good idea. I know it sounds silly, and it is silly, but you gotta admit, that would be hilarious. Like, imagine next chapter, they're chasing the Straw Hats, and then they fall apart because they couldn't hold each other up. I think that'd be really silly, really dumb, and it would be very One Piece in a way. All right, so now for the last comment, they say, so, Sai was Korean all along. The haircut gave it away. I wish I was Korean. Dude, let me tell you, those Koreans, man, they got crazy skincare, man. Their skin is like immaculate. Mine, not so much. But hey, with that being said though, guys, thank you so much for stopping by and checking out this video with me. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully your comment got read as well. But we will be back next week to do more of these videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. Sai, signing out.